Assalamualaikum and konnichiwa. Thank you for joining today's episode of Academy Speaking with me, Azalia. And in today's episode, we will be talking about the MEXT interview prep. First and foremost, congratulations to everyone who has passed the written examination. From what I've heard, all of the interviews will be conducted online through WhatsApp. I might be wrong, but either way, an interview is still an interview, and it doesn't matter if it's an interview for a scholarship or interview for academia, like myself, who I might mention have just went through my preliminary examination, my preliminary defense last Saturday. And so after an hour and 30 minutes of deliberation and questioning with 6 professors, alhamdulillah, I have passed my my preliminary defense. So yeah, today's video will be giving some tips that you guys can inshallah use for your upcoming interview for the MEXT Government Scholarship Embassy Recommendation in Malaysia. Alright, so the first tip is about the first 5 minutes. Now the first 5 minutes, or the first part of any interview, all starts with you. So what that means is you will usually be given the floor or given the chance to explain briefly about your research. Now sometimes they will not exactly say, hey, you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes. They will say, hey, can you please explain briefly about your research. So this is your chance to talk about your research and tell them what it's about. Prepare it so that it will be concise and precise, like I always say, because sometimes some research can be really long and it can be very difficult to explain. So make sure you already are prepped and know exactly where are the main points that you want to talk about. So talk about why it's important and why this research can be beneficial. So now among the panelists there will be a expert in your field. However, there will also be other representatives from associations who are involved in the scholarship. So some of them might not be that familiar with your terms, or especially specific terms. So I always say to try and explain it in layman terms as best as you can, even though it can be difficult for some very specific topics such as science or engineering and bioengineering, all those things, but try your best to do that. What you can do to practice is ask a family or friend who is not in your field, who has nothing to do with research, and just try and explain to them, see what they understand, see what they don't understand, and try and go off from there. So some people might think, oh, well, I know my research, I can talk about it at the top of my head. But why it's still important for you to prepare is because sometimes when things are impromptu and you just talk without preparing it beforehand, you tend to take a longer time to explain. So when you take a longer time, it might not, the punch is slightly less, because you're like dragging it, and people are like, okay, get to the point. So that's why it's important for you to prepare in the first place. You don't have to memorize it if you don't want to, but just keep in mind the main points that you want to bring across during those first 5 minutes to make your best impression. The second tip is about Japan. So they may or may not ask you this, but usually they will, and that is why Japan. Why are you choosing Japan as the place that you would want to pursue your postgraduate studies? So if your research is directly connected to Japan, like Japanese language education or manga or some technology wise, then this will be easier for you to justify saying, this is the best place to learn it because that's where it came from. However, if your research is not directly connected, if it's something political, like political science, it's not directly, there's a lot of layers. Find a way, do your homework, find a way to interconnect of, I find this part of Japan interesting to study. I think it can really help in this layer. Or it can also be because you want, the field that you want to study is very advanced in Japan and it hasn't been looked at in Japan and you want to see what it's like. Talk about the country itself, of why you want to do it there in the first place. I'm sure you have your reasons, so this is where you want to talk about it. The third tip, similarly to the second one, is about your university. Why are you choosing this specific university? So I think they do tell you in the fine print that they are more likely to send you to national universities than private universities. So if you really have to justify why you want to go to that university, like, okay, so this is where the supervisor part comes in. Maybe the supervisor that you really want to work with is in that university, so you want to go to that university or that field, or they have the field that you want. They have a laboratory that is not available anywhere else. This is where you can talk about that on that university. During my own interview, they highlighted other universities that I did not put in my selection. They were like, oh, why didn't you try Osaka or Hiroshima University? They have great language programs there, but why aren't they listed here? You can always have an answer prepared at the back of your head, or if you have your reasons already prepared, then that's great. So when I was asked that, I said, oh yeah, they have great language programs, but they are specialized in something slightly different than what I want to do, and this is available at the university that I want to choose to go to, or something like that. Or you can also be very straightforward, like the main reason I didn't apply for Hiroshima was because I did not pass their requirements. At the time, they needed someone with JLPT N1, and I only had N2 proficiency. So I did tell them during the panelists that, and that was for Osaka. For Hiroshima, I did not pass with the requirements, and so it's okay to be completely transparent and honest, as long as they know where you're coming from, and that's why I want to go to this university, and I think it is better suited for me anyway. So do your homework on that too, so you can justify where you really want to go. And as I said just now, they are more likely to send you to a national university over a private one. So if you really have only one university that you really want to go to, and it is a private university, you can take a gamble and just put that one selection. You don't have to put all three, which is what Kohin did. He only put Waseda there because he just wanted to go to Waseda. He didn't want to go anywhere else, and if he didn't get Waseda, then he was like, oh no, it's okay, then I don't think I want to do it anymore. So you can take that gamble, and yeah, alhamdulillah, he did get there. But it's totally up to you. Don't do it if you're not confident. National universities are great as well, nothing to do with it, but it's all up to your personal preference. Now the fourth tip is about you. Okay, I probably said this in the first one, but more specifically, it's about why you. Why should they fund you and your research? What's so special about you that you should be chosen for this scholarship? So at this part, you can usually talk about the significance of your research, why it's, something beneficial, why it needs to be done. And since there will be a specialist in the field, it is their job to find all kinds of loopholes, all kind of questions, all kinds of problems with your research proposal. So don't take it personally. It's their job to break it down, and it is your job to defend it. It is your job to explain to them, even with all those loopholes, even with everything that they have said that might make it seem like this research is not feasible. You're supposed to defend your research and show them that no, I still think that this research is worth your time, and explain. And this is basically what I did with my preliminary defense that day, but with, like I said, 6 professors, and just repeating again and again the importance and where the real value of your research lies. So the thing about, the research proposal is one thing, but what all these panelists, or what these panelists actually usually look for during this time, is they want to fund someone who is confident, resilient, and will not give up on your research. Because why would you want to fund someone who is just, in Malay we call it hangat-hangat tai ayam, like you just are really excited during the first, like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and then halfway is like, and then you drop out. And since this is a no strings attached kind of scholarship, you have nothing to lose anyway. There's no payback or whatever. So they really want to fund people who are really serious and who can really carry through the research and finish the program. So show them at this part of the interview that you are that kind of person. So during this part, things can get a bit heated, and feelings can get hurt, especially when they attack your research. But like I said, don't take it personally. It is their job. Be calm, collected, defend your research as best as you can, but always do it in a respectful manner and know when to move on. Which brings us to the fifth and final most important tip that I think, which is leaving the room with a good last impression as well. So first impressions are good, final impressions are also good, because like I said, you will probably spend most part of the interview not really arguing, I won't use arguing, discussing your research and its importance and why you deserve it and all that. And like I said, it can maybe get emotional, or that's not the right word, it gets heated, and you can get angry, you can get hurt, and it might end it might make you feel like whatever, okay lah, you don't want to give me the scholarship, that's it lah. You don't want to leave your interview finished like that, and you also don't want to be the kind of person that's like, hey, I know everything, okay, and I know everything, so like everything you're saying is totally wrong because I know what I'm doing. Like, we don't want that, okay? In research, the most important thing is always humility and knowing when to say, yes, I have to admit that my research has not gone there, but it is an interesting comment and I will consider looking into it into the future. It's totally fine for you to admit that you don't know something or that it's not, in your expertise, and it's even better for you to admit that you don't know everything. Remember that they're not doing this out of spite, but they're just doing this so that they can really see the passion and the drive that you have as a researcher and how much you really might want the scholarship. So at the end of the day, when it comes to all these interviews, right, whatever interview it may be, these people, these panelists or professors or whoever, they are always looking for someone who is dedicated and passionate about their research, and the research itself that is being carried out is something that is beneficial and also feasible. And if you tick all the boxes and it is your rizki, then inshallah you will move on to the next part of the scholarship. Other times, however, you might tick all the boxes and things feel really good and things feel really great, but if it's not your rizki and it misses you, then remember that it was never meant for you in the first place. Everyone has their own rizki, everyone has what is meant for them, and you have what is meant for you too. Maybe not this time, maybe not this one, but God knows best and everything in His plan, and it's up to us to move on forward and find what the next best thing might be for us. Whatever does happen, keep an open mind about it, and I know that's easier said than done, but especially in these trying times, there's not much we can do anyway but just be patient and see what's going to happen. And a last piece of very useful advice that I also found myself doing a lot is emailing the person in charge at the embassy about the scholarship. Any questions that you have, any clarifications, like sure you can ask me, but I'm not the official person at the end of at the other end. I can just give you things that are from my experience, but that was from 2017 and 2018. It's already 2020 and a lot of things have changed. So if you need exact clarification or you need exact questions answered, email them. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer your questions even better than I can. So practice doing that. I did that a lot, and Kohin also did that a lot. We were always emailing back and forth, and it all gave us a lot of clarity and know what we were getting into, especially regarding the MEXT scholarship in the coming 2021, I guess. With the pandemic and all that, things can be very different. We don't know a lot of stuff, so practice emailing them and practice asking them questions. Other than that, I can also answer some questions up to where I can, I guess. So yeah, I guess that's all for today's video. All the best to everyone for their interviews. Remember to take it with a pinch of salt, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Assalamualaikum.